I had an extremely clean freak boyfriend. His room was always spotless, without a speck of dust. What pained me the most was that he treated me the same way. Fine, 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 if I can't handle it, I'll just leave. Goodbye, Your Highness. Today, after being scolded by my boss, I dragged my tired body back to the home I shared with James, working overtime until very late. As soon as I opened the door, James, sitting at his desk, said without changing his expression, "Change your slippers and take a shower." I took a deep breath. Having just been criticized by my boss, I don't know if I was upset or what, but tears of frustration fell. Not only did I not change my slippers, but I also carelessly threw my bag down and lay directly on the couch. "James, let's break up." James didn't even look up, directly ignoring my words. "Looks like the couch cover will have to be thrown away tomorrow, and the floor will need to be mopped." I gritted my teeth and repeated clearly, word by word, "James, let's break up." This was the 6th time I had proposed breaking up in half a year. I admit I liked James and was reluctant to leave him, but I really couldn't take it anymore. It wasn't just because he was a germaphobe, but because he treated me like I was dirty too. In the year we'd been together, hand-holding could barely be counted. Only once. Kissing, hugging, all these things couples should do had never happened. Just because James was an extremely clean person, who would wash his hands 3 times after shaking hands with a friend. What's more annoying was that in the 2 months we'd lived together, we slept in separate rooms. I couldn't enter his room, and the first thing to do when coming home was to change slippers and take a shower. Even going to the toilet required thoroughly cleaning it with toilet cleaner first, and repeating the process afterward. Once I was lazy and only rinsed with water. As a result, James directly replaced the toilet the next day. What a miserable life. What a miserable me. I knew clearly that James didn't love me. I wasn't that special person, and I would never be that special person in the future. James finally looked up at me, his almond eyes glancing at me slightly. I couldn't see the emotion in his eyes, only feeling extraordinarily calm. He said, "Have you thought it through?" My heart suddenly caught. The last time I broke up, James asked the same question. At that time, I ended up softening without any backbone. How could you let go of someone you like so easily? But this time, I didn't plan to compromise. If he didn't love me, why did he accept my confession in the first place? If he didn't want to touch me at all, why did he agree to live together? I didn't want to continue living like this for another second. Being with James, I lived like a stranger, walking on eggshells for a year. I also wanted to be able to do nothing when I got home, lie on the couch and scroll through my phone, instead of changing slippers, taking a shower, and constantly worrying about dirtying his territory. I wiped away a tear and sat up. "I've thought it through. I'll pack my things and move out later." James frowned, looking at me deeply, and finally didn't open his mouth to persuade me. "Okay, do you want me to call you a car?" I clutched my chest, took a deep breath, and quietly chanted to myself, "Don't get angry, don't get angry, don't argue with an idiot." I got up and angrily packed my luggage to leave, obviously in the manner of running away from home. But when I reached the door, the more I thought about it, the more unwilling I felt. Why should I be the only one suffering while James could remain unmoved? No, I had to make him suffer too. I couldn't bear this pain alone. So I dropped my luggage and walked aggressively towards James at his desk. James rarely showed a hint of confusion. "Lily, what are you trying to do?" But I wouldn't explain. I directly forced myself on him, grabbing James's collar and then kissed him. Then I vindictively bit his lip. And not only that, I ran my hands all over his chest. Without giving James a chance to react, I grabbed my luggage and ran off. I could hear James shouting behind me, "Lily Sanders, have you gone crazy?" That was our first kiss, and also our last kiss. The news of my breakup with James spread quickly, and after moving out of his house, I met with the manager who had wanted to poach me to their company last time. Their company had been cooperating with foreign enterprises for a long time. After discussing the salary and benefits, I bought a plane ticket without hesitation and flew out of this heartbreaking city. In the first week of joining the new company, I secured an opportunity for overseas training and further studies with my previous excellent performance. I admit I wanted to escape. I didn't want to see James again because I was afraid I would soften again. Sitting on the plane heading abroad, I looked at the few and not so intimate photos of James and me in my phone album. Tears fell again, and then I reached out and deleted them all. "James, I'll make you regret not cherishing me properly." Crying and crying, I was afraid of ruining my expensive makeup, so I took out the mirror I carried with me and wiped away my tears. After 6 months of further studies, I returned to the new company and worked hard for the boss. Gradually, the thoughts of James in my heart lessened. Perhaps this is the power of time. I lazily made a cup of coffee. Footsteps came from behind, but I didn't turn around. However, the man behind me called out, "Lily, still working overtime?" I turned to look at the newcomer. It was Ryan, a new colleague in our department, also very hardworking. Compared to me back then, he was even more so. When he first came, I teased him, "Did you also just break up?" At that time, he answered me, "Yes." Perhaps because we were in the same boat, we quickly became close, sometimes going on business trips together, closer than iron brothers. I took a sip of coffee. "Isn't it obvious?" Ryan laughed. "Be careful, or you might end up with a receding hairline." I rolled my eyes at him, annoyed. "If you can't say anything nice, just keep quiet." After a while, Ryan said again, "There's a gathering tomorrow night. Help me out, will you?" I said straightforwardly, "No." Ding ding. Phone notification. "Ryan Young has transferred 5,000 to you." I gladly accepted and then looked up at him. "I take back what I just said. Tell me, what help do you need? As long as I can do it, I'll definitely get it done for you." Ryan had a slightly mischievous expression. "Pretend to be my girlfriend." I shamelessly said, "Add another 1,000. Ryan tugged at the corner of his mouth. "Deal." The next evening, I wore a sexy figure-hugging red long dress and walked into the gathering place with Ryan. Although my figure wasn't particularly good, it was above average, and my face wasn't bad either. Ryan would definitely look good. Ryan enthusiastically greeted his friends and then introduced me. Living up to my professional ethics, I held Ryan's arm, appearing intimately close. When the crowd dispersed a bit, my peripheral vision paused, and then the smile froze on my face. Not for any other reason, but because I saw a very familiar figure, a figure I had been avoiding for 2 years but hadn't forgotten. My gaze followed that man step by step as he walked over. James, a person I would recognize even if he turned to ashes. When Ryan saw James coming, he immediately perked up. "Dr. Quinn, you're finally here. We've been waiting for you for a long time. This is my girlfriend, Lily Sanders." I awkwardly tugged at the corner of my mouth. James's eyes kept falling on me, and then I heard his deep voice, "Lily Sanders? Your girlfriend?" As soon as these words were spoken, I suddenly felt the air turn cold. It must be an illusion. I swallowed and thought to myself, "Lily, what are you afraid of? You've already broken up. There's no relationship anymore." After a round of self-encouragement, I adjusted my state, then put on a smile and reached out my hand saying, "Hello, Dr. Quinn." James James held his wine glass, hesitating to reach out. I knew he definitely wouldn't. This severe germaphobe, who would wash his hands 3 times after shaking hands with others. How could he shake hands with me? Especially me, his detestable ex-girlfriend. I vividly remembered that after I forced myself on him, James looked shocked. His neatly ironed white shirt all messed up, with a blood drop from my bite on his lip. It was like a chaste male god had been violated. Thinking about it now, I still felt a little excited. Seeing that James kept looking at me but didn't reach out, Ryan, to ease the awkwardness, tried to pull my hand back. But the next second, James reached out and shook my hand. Hello, Lily Sanders. I was almost afraid James would say, long time no see, my detestable ex-girlfriend. What shocked me more was that James actually shook hands with me. Has this man reformed after 2 years? The day I left the Northwood estate, Paul was leaning against the doorframe. He watched me pack, a smirk playing on his lips. What's this? He drawled. Finally realized that even having my child wasn't enough to make me marry you. Decided he's useless now, so you're not even going to take him with you? Before I could answer, Leo, who had been eavesdropping just outside the door, crept into the room. He carefully tipped his piggy bank upside down, pouring a handful of coins and crumpled bills into my palm. Mommy, you have to take care of yourself, okay? He said, his small voice earnest. And can you please promise you'll never ever come back? He looked up at me, his dark round eyes brimming with an almost unbearable hope. Auntie Claire said she'll only be my new mommy if you leave for good. After he said it, he just blinked at me, the anticipation practically vibrating off him. Paul's voice dropped, a low warning. Leo, is that what they teach you at school? How to speak to your mother? Leo's head drooped, his lower lip jutting out in a pout. But last time when Auntie Claire asked if you liked mommy, you said no, daddy. So I don't really like her that much either. If she wants to go, just let her go. His words no longer had the power to wound me. Not anymore. A week ago on his 6th birthday, he'd thrown a tantrum, insisting he wanted to celebrate with Paul and Claire. In that moment, something inside me shifted. The desperate, grasping fear I'd lived with for so long simply vanished. I had no desire to stop him. Later that evening, I walked past the restaurant. Through the window, I heard him proudly telling the violinist that Claire was his mother. My heart remained perfectly still, a calm, flat sea. I was kneeling on the floor, packing, so my eyes were level with his. I closed my hand around the money he'd given me and gave a small, firm nod. All right, I said, my voice quiet. I didn't call myself mommy. I promise you, I will never come back to this house, and I'm not your mother anymore. You're free, Leo. He seemed stunned that I'd agreed so easily. He stared at me for a beat, his expression blank. Then his face split into a wide grin. Yay, Auntie Claire is going to be my mommy. He bolted from the room, shouting that he was going to call Claire and tell her the good news. I packed the last of my clothes, zipped the suitcase shut, and stood up. Paul had been silent this whole time, but as I moved to pass him, his hand shot out, clamping around my arm. His eyes were half-lidded, his expression unreadable. Jenny, not liking you doesn't mean I hate you. His voice was low, threaded with a faint, rising irritation. I've gotten used to you over the years. What's all this drama about? Do you really have to leave? I wanted to say something, but it all felt pointless and melodramatic. Instead, I just pulled my arm free. Take care of Leo, I said. I dragged my suitcase out of the house. It was a long walk from the mansion to the main gate of the private community. The weather mirrored my mood. A bitter wind whipped fallen leaves from the pavement, slapping them against my legs. It would have been easy to look pathetic, to feel small and defeated, but I never once looked back. I had already rented a small apartment and found a job. Drawing on my old degree, I'd been hired as an instructor for a children's art program. On my first day, I walked into the staff office to find a few of my new colleagues huddled around a little girl. Rosie, darling, does your uncle like sweets? Oh, and what's his type? What kind of girls does he like? Rosie, sweetie, is he picking you up tonight? The little girl's face was a mask of stoicism. You said you wanted to talk to me about my artistic style. The teachers exchanged awkward glances. If there's nothing else, I'm going back to the classroom, she announced. She turned, saw me, and gave a polite, hello, miss, before walking out, her gaze fixed straight ahead. My new colleagues were friendly enough. After showing me the ropes, they started gossiping about the girl. You probably don't know, but her uncle is Dennis Harris. He and Paul Northwood are basically tied for the title of Northwood's most eligible bachelor. Well, they were. I heard Paul's back with his first love, Claire Somerset, now that she's returned from overseas. So I guess that just leaves Dennis. Hearing Paul's name again, I felt nothing, as if they were talking about a stranger. But Dennis Harris, I sighed silently. He was Paul's biggest rival, and he'd never made a secret of his contempt for me. Every time we'd cross paths, he'd hit me with some kind of insult. Pathetic. A picture of Paul and Claire kissing is trending online, and you don't even make a peep. What do you even get from being with him? A ring? A title? For God's sake, Jenny, have you ever considered looking at someone else? I decided it was best to keep my distance from the girl named Rosie. If Dennis found out I was working here, he'd probably pull strings to have me fired. Paul called while I was on the subway home, packed shoulder to shoulder with the evening rush. Hello? The noise on my end was deafening. He paused before speaking. Where are you? On the subway. A dry, almost inaudible chuckle came through the line. The subway? Jenny, you're really reaping what you sow. I gripped the handrail. Did you need something? I could hear his footsteps, the sound slow and deliberate even through the static. Just like the man himself. I could picture him perfectly, rising from his massive desk, walking over to the floor-to-ceiling windows of his office. Leo has a fever, he said. Give me your address. I'll come get you. No thank you, I said, my eyes dropping to the floor. The staff at the house will take care of him. He doesn't need me. Paul's voice hardened. Are you serious about abandoning him? Jenny, he said, his tone laced with disbelief. Is this all because he said he likes Claire more? Paul never understood my feelings for Leo. Even after I told him countless times that I had taken emergency contraception after that night, he refused to believe me. Because I had been in love with him for years. He was convinced I had gotten pregnant on purpose to trap him in a marriage. In his eyes, my love for Leo was never real. He was just a tool, a pawn. He had no idea about the countless nights I'd spent spiraling, consumed by the fear that Leo was slipping away away from me, that his affection for Claire was growing stronger every day. The train pulled into a major hub, and the car emptied out. It's not that, Paul, I said, finally finding a seat, the ache in my legs easing. My voice was soft. It's because he really does like her more, and I'm done trying to force it. I'm done twisting myself into knots trying to win his affection. He was about to say something else, but then a small voice from his end confirmed everything I just said. Daddy, my fever's gone, Leo chirped. Does that mean I can go play with Auntie Claire tomorrow? I heard Paul swallow hard. Jenny, listen to me. I ended the call. I got off at the next stop, determined to scrub the entire conversation from my mind. Hearing his mother's name, Leo paused. He stopped pestering his father about Claire and tugged on Paul's trousers instead. Daddy, was that mommy on the phone? Paul gave a slight nod. Oh, did you tell her I was sick? Is she coming home to see me? Paul looked into his son's bright round eyes and after a moment's hesitation, murmured, yes. Leo had known it all along. He knew Jenny would worry and come rushing back. I'll go put on a mask so I don't get mommy sick, he said, already turning. I can play with Auntie Claire some other time. A week had passed. The idea of seeing his mother didn't feel so bad anymore. Paul's lips thinned. Mommy's working late, he said. I told her not to come back. Leo, a fever patch still stuck to his forehead, just blinked. Oh, well I guess we can go see Auntie Claire then. He didn't seem particularly disappointed. Mommy would definitely come back to see him. She always got the most anxious whenever he was sick. Still, it was a little strange. In the past, even if she was in another country, she would have been on the first flight home the moment she heard he was sick. After a week, I'd settled into the new job. Dennis Harris had yet to make an appearance, but just in case, I always made a point of hiding in the office grading artwork whenever parents came to pick up their children. I only slipped up once, the day Rosie was out sick, and I had to help a colleague escort the students out. I always tried to treat every child the same, but somehow, she had noticed.